Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and we are going to start, but please continue eating. Welcome. It's great to see people back at the Meyer Alumni Center and doing regular things. We are joined today, we're doing this a little different, obviously in person, and then we're joined in a Zoom webinar by about 40 or 50 other people that are watching this via Zoom from not just around here, but literally all over the country. And so COVID has helped us change some things. We've got to get back in person, but then we're doing this hybrid too, so we can have more people enjoy this. So if you remember before, this was entitled Bears in the Know. And the purpose of that was to give our friends information about stuff you may not know about that's going on at Missouri State. So we did that for several years, and obviously during COVID, we stopped and did a few on Zoom, but now we've entitled this a little different and a little different purpose, and this is Lunch with a Genius. So it's not necessarily about a program or something you may not know about Missouri State, but it's about the person, because the university has lots of geniuses that work here, both in faculty and staff. So this is about really getting into what makes that person tick, how they got involved, and more personal things about an individual. So we'll get into that in a minute. As we are joined by folks online, the folks inside here, we do have microphones that are live in the ceiling. So during the presentation, if you whisper really heavily, people on Zoom can hear you. So watch out what you say. We'll put that out. Lots of great things are happening on campus, and to give us an update, if you please welcome the University President, Cliff Smart.
Thanks, Brent, and thanks everyone for joining us today. We are back in the swing of things, and one of the things that is always relevant to the university in March, in the spring, is what's happening in Jeff City in the legislature. And so I can report that mostly good things coming out of the state capitol this year. And it started with Governor Parson releasing his budget, and it has a 5.5% increase for all of higher ed's core operating funds. He's got $35 million in capital projects for us, including $30 million earmarked to expand and renovate Temple Hall. And so mostly our function this year is aligning ourselves with the governor and working to get his budget passed through the state legislature, because again, he doesn't get to set those priorities by himself. It has to work through the legislative process. At the same time, maybe for the first time in a long time, the federal government hasn't had earmarks for a long time. And earmarks are where individual legislators within a bigger budget can specifically designate where funds go to a particular capital project. We haven't had that for the last 10, 12 years. And so they are back this year. And we're fortunate to have Senator Blunt, who is the ranking minority member on one of the major appropriations committee. He is working to get an additional $50 million earmarked for us for that Temple Hall expansion and renovation. Continuing resolution runs out March 11. Most years I could care less if they pass a new budget in the federal government. This year I care. A continuing resolution does not get us that funding, but 11 appropriations bills does. And so we should know by March 11 whether that's going to happen or not. If both of those come through, $80 million of state and federal money to help us renovate, a building that hasn't really been touched very much since it was built in 1971. That's a game changer for our science and many of our pre-health programs. And so that's what we're focused on the advocacy side. A week ago, our spring enrollment numbers were official with census and a little good news to report, but challenges still ahead. There are 1.1 million fewer people in college now than there were 2 years ago. And that is directly related to the pandemic. You know, and in Springfield, we've started the last two semesters at a peak of a surge, right? In July and August last year, it was Delta. In January this year, it was Omicron. No question that impacted us, but we saw students beginning to return in the spring. And so our spring numbers were better than fall. And we were up overall about 1% spring over a year ago, and that's good. But we have a lot more work to do as we get back to operating more normally and get back on that traditional growth trend. We have a really important search underway at the university. You know, we've been very fortunate during the pandemic that we've kept our whole leadership team intact. But about a month ago, Dr. Einhellig announced that after 30 years at the university, he would be retiring. And I think everyone here knows Frank. Frank's here tonight, this afternoon. No one has done more than Frank to build the graduate programs at the university. When he came here 30 years ago as graduate dean, we had about 1,500 graduate students, no doctoral programs. We have 6 doctoral programs now and 4,200 graduate students. And just today, 5 of our online master's programs were named top 10 in the country. And so it is a profile changer for the university. Sometimes I get credit unfairly for the things that happen at the university. I also get unfairly blamed for things that happen at the university. But Frank should get the great bulk of the credit for the transformation that has gone on. We're working on a search. Suzanne Shaw co-chairs that search along with our graduate dean, Julie Masterson. So feel free to bend her ear about things. Our goal is to have someone in place by fall. And we're confident we can get there. Another really good thing that's happened since we started is we partnered with a not-for-profit digital newspaper, the Springfield Daily Citizen, housed on our campus. It's working particularly with the Reynolds College of Arts and Letters, with internships and other things, and they are off and running. If you have not checked them out, you can get a whole year's subscription for $78 if you act quickly. The level of coverage they are doing on meaningful stories is different than anything we've had in the last 10 years. David Steffler is back. Used to be the editor of the News Leader, is now operating this. Tom Carlson, who's on our board of governors at a time, has really been the primary startup funder to get this going. And it is, I can usually read our other newspaper source in about 3 minutes in the morning. This one I have to figure out a time. I'm going to read several articles because they're very interesting. So again, that's a piece of Missouri State partnering with local folks in our community to make our community better and advance our public affairs mission. Sean's Wall's been a big part of his college and helping to get that started as well. And then finally, basketball tournaments are this weekend and next. We've got the Voice of the Bears, or our color commentator, Mike Keltner, with us today. So if you got basketball questions, see Mike. He's sitting over at the table with Frank and Dr. Mallory. And really probably, Mike, you can contradict me on this if you want, although don't do it publicly. I would say this is the first time in 11 years I've been president on the men's side that we have a real chance to win. We have a great draw. And so if we're in that championship game on Sunday and you want to come up to St. Louis, I'm sure there'll be tickets you can get. You will have to bring a vaccine card. We want to publicly say that. You got to show a vaccine card to get in Enterprise. But we're excited about this week. The following week we'll be in Moline for the women's team. We're used to winning that tournament every single year, and there's no reason we can't do it again. So exciting time for Missouri State sports. Baseball's off and running. Since you're not going to have pro baseball this year, come out and see the Bears. A lot of good baseball still going to be played at Hammons Field. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dean Sean Wall, talk a little bit about what's going on in the Reynolds College of Arts and Letters.
Well, thanks, President Smart, and hello to everybody on Zoom, and of course, everybody that's here in person. Isn't it great to be back in person for events like this? This is tremendous. So I just have a few announcements that I think really do benefit all of our academic programs at Missouri State University. One of the things that has truly been special during the pandemic is we accepted the largest scholarship yet in the history of Missouri State University to name the Reynolds College of Arts and Letters. And so I'm proud to share with you all today that the third cohort of the Reynolds Scholars that benefits all 7 departments, including our interdisciplinary programs within the Reynolds College. All those students will be joining us in fall 22. That's really been, I think, connected to our goals, our mission, when we look at affordability, inclusive excellence, recruiting highly qualified and diverse students. Again, all 7 departments, musical theater, electronic arts, benefit from that comprehensive scholarship. So that's been tremendous. One of the things that we're really proud of within the Reynolds College that supports the long-range plan is actually we're finishing the 2nd year of one of our terminal MFA programs, and that's the MFA in dramatic writing. At the commencement in May, we'll have our first set of students who are graduating. We do have to meet goals in terms of the number of graduates. So within 2 years in a 3-year program, we had enough students that brought in certificate credit, but we'll have the first set of graduate students leave that program with an MFA in dramatic writing. And Christina Piepa here, Professor Christina Piepa is the leader of that program. So I want to recognize her for her fine work for leading that program. Let's give Christina a hand. Thank you. A couple of brief announcements, and really looking forward to the conversation with the Genius today. Another gift that the foundation has supported actually was recently signed, and that's a large planned gift that supports the Missouri Fine Arts Academy. And for many years, that really is a legacy program that ties to pre-college experiences. And so many of our alums who are now teachers across the state, business leaders, attorneys across all academic areas come to Missouri State University. They might not major in music or art. They may land in the College of Business. And it's those pre-college programs across all of academic affairs that I think really make a difference in our recruiting future students to come to the university. So those are just a couple of things going on. You'll get to hear from a faculty genius today who I'm really proud of, and I don't want to steal the show, but it's gifts for endowed professorships, scholarships that support affordability for our students. All of those things are a few examples of the tremendous work of our foundation. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brent Dunn to move forward with our program. Thanks again for being here today. Take care.
Thank you. Please welcome our first genius, Dr. Todd Payne. Dr. Payne is a professor of music, and we're going to get in a conversation and ask you some good questions. Welcome, welcome. Have a seat, relax, don't get too nervous. But we've got some hard-hitting questions. So the first one is, and probably the most important one to start off. I mean, Todd is your middle name. It's Dr. Richard Todd Payne. Now, growing up, did that all mess you up? Because we got a Harold Pratt here, and we got a Margaret Shaw back there. Did everybody call you Todd from the beginning?
No, when I was in kindergarten to first grade, everyone called me Richard. And after first grade, everyone just started calling me Todd. However, there was one year in school, the kids started calling me by my last name, Payne. Why, I don't know. But as I grew, I would always be asked, why do you go by your middle name, Todd? And the only answer I could come up with was, well, the only person that calls me both names, Richard Todd, is my mother, and that's what she's mad at.
Yeah.
So
I can
it's
relate.
been Todd from here on out.
Yeah, Harold can relate probably as well. Yeah. So tell us, where'd you grow up? In Tennessee?
I grew up in Munford, Tennessee.
All right.
That was my hometown. I'm a country boy from the South. Munford, Tennessee is about 30 minutes north of Memphis. And so graduated from Munford High in 1984 and started my academic career at, it was called Memphis State University when I was there, and my department head, Dr. Julie Combs, attended there. My wife, Dr. Angela Holloway Payne, attended there also. But now it's called University of Memphis.
Yeah, so tell us about the family growing up. What was that like?
I grew up with my mother and with my grandparents whom I lived with, and several aunts and uncles. My uncles, they were like father figures to me. If I got in trouble, we had this tradition down south. Well, if I got in trouble, well, one of my uncles or one of my aunts would give me a spanking. When my mother came home from work, they would tell her, and then I got a second one. So I guess it paid off because I'm sitting here talking to you.
Yeah, I guess it did. That'd be a lesson.
Yeah, so, but it was, I mean, it still is so much love. It's where my love for music came from. My mother was a singer. My grandmother was a singer. One of my aunts was a singer, and I just got the bug and took it from there.
So, and a lot of you have heard Dr. Payne sing, who he could sing, amazing, genius. But tell, when did you know, at what age did you realize, I can sing?
Wow, I started singing when I was about 5 years old, and most of you all know that I'm a baritone, but I started out as a high soprano. And yes, I did. And no, you don't want to. Of course, around 12 or 13, while in church, I was leading a song and trying to sing a high note, and I just knew instinctively it's not going to come out. So I had to sing low, and I heard my mother, who was behind me in the choir, say, his voice has changed. So, but to answer that question, when did I knew that I could do this? Well, my dreams was to become a professional football player. I played football in high school. However, during my sophomore year, I suffered a broken collarbone. And after that, I just came to my senses that, well, maybe I don't have what it takes to transcend to the college football gridiron. And I remember going to my choir teacher and just saying, listen, I love to sing, but do you think I have what it takes? And at that time, I did not want to go into opera. If a lot of you are familiar with the late R&B singer Luther Vandross, that was and still one of my favorite singers. And he's the man that inspired me. So going to University of Memphis, that's what I had the intentions of becoming the next Luther Vandross. I still got a 3x5 card that he sent me from his fan club, and it's on my wall in my office. And on the back, he wrote, and I have it memorized, "Dear Todd, thank you for the kind words. Believe me, it's people like you who make the hard work worthwhile. All the best, work hard and believe. Kindest regards." And he signed it, Luther. And once I got that, I knew, okay, I think I can do this. But as I said, when I got to undergrad school, somehow, some reason, I got the bug of singing classical music. And my teacher, whom some of you all may seen on my signature at the bottom of an email, the late Ethel Taylor Maxwell, she's the one that pushed me and encouraged me. And since then, 1985 to up to 2018, when I made my Lincoln Center debut up in New York City at Alice Tully Hall, right across from the Metropolitan Opera. Who could have dreamed it? but she must have saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at the time.
Well, what kind of student were you in high school? Good student? I mean, you don't have to give us all.
My
your
mother's
grades.
probably watching this right now. I think I was okay.
Well, what's your definition of okay? You
I played around.
C's, A's, yeah, okay.
Well, I couldn't come to my mother's house with a C. So maybe more B's than A's. However, when I got to college, I can't explain it. I took academics really seriously. And my favorite subject wasn't a music class. When I started taking the foreign language classes, especially French, oh, I fell in love. And Pauline loves that, you know. Je pense que tous les gars très jolis. How was that? So,
See, yeah. So how did you get to Memphis State then?
how did I get to
I mean,
Memphis?
did you look at other places or what was it?
It was my intention to go into the military.
Really?
I was surrounded by people in my community who would go into one branch of the military. And at that time, I was thinking of the Marines. And yeah, I want to be a jarhead. I hope that's right. We have some Marines here. However, I went down to Memphis State at the encouragement of my choir teacher just to audition. Didn't know what would happen. And I got accepted. They offered me a partial scholarship. And when the military recruiter came back to my school, I guess to finalize to see if this is what you want to do, I said to him, well, I've just been offered a partial scholarship to Memphis State University and to study music, which I love. I don't know what to do. Until this day, every military person that I shared this story with, they say to me, he told you the right thing, which was, you got a scholarship, go ahead and go to college. And that's where it started. That's how I went to Memphis State.
So how did you get to Missouri State?
How did I get to Missouri State? After I finished my master's and doctorate at the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, where I spent 13 years of my life and studied abroad 2 summers back-to-back in Tel Aviv, Israel. Once I graduated with my doctorate, I spent about 2 years singing full-time. And at the same time, I was applying for positions. And just so happens, Missouri State, Southwest Missouri State at the time had an opening. And I applied, and I remember one of the members of the search committee he called me and he said, Todd, do you have any way of getting in touch with, it's a man by the name of Cheryl Mills. And for those of you who may not follow opera, Cheryl Mills, in my opinion, is one of the baddest baritones in the opera world. He's retired now. And I studied with him when I was over in Israel. And so they wanted some information from him. So I called him at Northwestern University and told him, and he said, well, Todd, I'll tell them whatever you want me to tell. So he called Missouri State. He talked about me, and about, I say maybe 2 weeks later, John Prescott called me and said, Todd, we want to offer you the job. Here's the funny thing about this. After he had called, he said I had a week to decide if I was going to come. A Christian college up in Rochester, New York called Roberts Wesleyan College. They also interviewed me. And when I went up, it was a great interview. And the department head at the time said, well, Todd, we have one more person we need to interview, but you've impressed everyone. And I could either call that person and cancel it and hire you right now, or what do you think? And I said, let me call Southwest Missouri State and see if they'll give me an extension. I want to respect if you wish to interview this other person. So I called, talked to John Prescott, and I remember John saying, Todd, we'll give you a couple of more days. And so Roberts Wesleyan College, the search committee interviewed this guy, and they called me and they said, but Todd, we want you to know, we thought you were great, but Todd, we're going to go with this guy. And I said, fine. So I called John Prescott and I said, I'll take the job. I'm on my way to Southwest. And if I may say, this is my grandmother coming out of me. God works in mysterious ways because as soon as I came here, that's when doors just began to open. Started singing with Springfield Regional Opera, started singing with the symphony. But I remember that first day I walked in to my office and I saw my name on the door. I sat down at my desk and I asked myself, am I really cut out for doing this? I get to give grades. I get to tell students if you don't do your work. I thought maybe I should go back to Illinois and be a student again. But I'm glad I didn't change my mind. And I'm sure that's a part of the process for any beginning, professor. It's called growing pains. And so since then, 18 years later, I think I've grown and I'm still growing.
And we're glad you made that.
I'm glad too.
Tell us, what's a day in your life on campus?
Well,
Typical day.
Well, before I get to campus, my wife's gonna laugh at this. My alarm clock goes off at 3:30 a.m.
How come?
Because I'm in the gym at between 4:30 and 5.
Yeah, so I get there a little bit earlier, so I just missed you. So,
I get in a good 2-hour workout, swimming, strength training, and as weird as it may seem, as a professional opera singer, I get my best practicing done in the morning because I'm a morning person.
yeah.
I get my best studying done in the morning. Around 5 or 6 o'clock after I've taught all day, I just want to close my eyes and not think about anything whatsoever. But after I work out, come home, play with our 2 dogs, and I don't start teaching till about 1 o'clock because I use 9 till 11 to prepare and practice music, okay? So after I finish practicing, come to campus, teach my students, ask lots of questions, and then in the afternoon, I begin to prepare for the next day.
What time do you go to sleep?
Between 8:30 and 9.
Yeah, that's a.
Sometimes 8 o'clock.
Yeah, that's. Wow.
So I'm dedicated.
So even on weekends, you get up at 3:30?
On weekends, I get up
Oh, okay. Well,
at 5
that's-
because I'm in the gym by 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And the reason I push myself like this is because I have type 2 diabetes, but nevertheless, in 4 months, I went from an A1C of a 10.27 to a 6.8. And so that lets me know that it's paying off. Plus, I want to be an inspiration to those who may say, well, this is the disease that I have. I can't beat it. If I'm doing it, anybody can do it. It just takes consistency, especially on those days when you don't feel like doing it and you just get up and do it anyway.
Yeah. Now. So you have performed all over. I mean, all over.
A little bit.
So, yeah, a little bit. So give us some highlights of that. Where's your favorite place that you perform?
Lincoln Center.
Yeah.
Up in New York City.
Yeah.
I think it's every singer's dream to one day sing at the Metropolitan Opera. I've auditioned for the Metropolitan Opera on several occasions. Never reached the regional finals where you could then go up to New York. However, in 2017, one of my dear friends who I went to school with, international opera star, his name is Nathan Gunn. He had texted me and said, Todd, are you free to do a gig in 2018? And I said, sure, no problem. And I was thinking, he's been generous to offer me a gig if he couldn't do it. And that's what I was thinking. So the department head at University of Illinois called me and said, Todd, Illinois is getting ready to celebrate their sesquicentennial anniversary. And we have this new piece called The Gathering with a baritone solo. And we wondered if you would be willing to do it. And I said, sure. But in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm just going to drive over to Illinois, sing it, and come back. As he was talking, he said, now, Todd, the first performance is up in Chicago, and Nathan's going to do that. So, okay. And then, Todd, we're going to do the second performance at Alice Tully Hall. And when he said that, I just froze. And I said, you mean Alice Tully Hall up in Lincoln Center in New York City? He said, yes. I put him on hold and I dismissed my student and told my student, go further down the hall, please. And I as a singer, I'm not supposed to do this, but I screamed to the top of my lungs. And I talked to the department head, and what was so meaningful, which is what I say to my students. The department head at Illinois said, Todd, I want you to know that when Nathan mentioned to me that he could not perform in New York, I simply asked him, who would you recommend? And out of his mouth, he said, Todd Payne. And I thought to myself, Nathan hasn't heard me sing in over 10 years, but I hope what he remembers is my work ethic. And that's what I instill in my students. I tell them all the time, if you have a beautiful voice, that's great. But as my voice teacher said to me, I want to know that you get up every morning and you go in. So New York City is at the top.
Who's the most famous person you've ever met?
Most famous person I've ever, besides you?
Well, Harold Pratt here.
The most famous person I've ever met, and I shook his hand. If you remember, Julius Irving of the Philadelphia 76ers, Dr. J. He came to Memphis State to speak. He was on a speaking tour. And I remember he said, most of you all know that I received my degree from University of Massachusetts. But what you do not know is that it took me 17 years to get it because of my pro basketball career. So I guess that was his way of letting the students know, don't quit. And so everybody was trying to take a picture with him, and he walked by. Oh, he's tall. And of course, I shook his hand, and that was it. So,
And you didn't sing with him?
no, I didn't sing with him.
You mentioned inspiring students. Tell us what that does for you.
I believe it does for me what it does for parents when they see their children grow up and branch out on their own. When my students come into my studio, and let's say after about 1 or 2 years, because we're studying voice, but when they start speaking not my pedagogical language, but when they start speaking their own pedagogical language, that lets me know I've had an influence on you, just like my teacher had an influence on me. And that is the highlight. And if there was something even greater than that, it would have to be some of my students on Father's Day have texted me to say, Dr. Payne, I think I speak for everyone in our studio when I say to you, Happy Father's Day. Oh, I stick my chest out like a proud father.
We do have a former student, Tabitha, come on up. Tabitha Tracy was a former student. She sang in the university chorale, obviously from Reed Springs, right? And you are a choral instructor now at Glendale?
Yes,
So what classes did you have with Dr. Payne?
I took voice with Dr. Payne for 4.5 years.
4.5 years. Now you got to tell us the truth. Now you can leave. Tell us the truth. Tell us, what was it like?
Intimidating.
Really?
It was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. You know, I grew up in Reed Springs, so I was a big fish in a little pond. And then I came in my freshman year and I thought I knew everything, and I was humbled very quickly. You know, when you have a tall man shouting at you in the middle of your lesson, more, more. But at the same time, it was what I needed. And I think he's completely right. You know, we go through a lot of journeys together when we learn our music. And to get to the other side of that, there's a lot of emotion that goes through it, but there's a lot of growth that goes through it. And I would not be the singer or the educator I am today without having been pushed and, you know, promoted by this incredible man.
So what's one or two things that you took from Dr. Payne that you're sort of implementing with your students?
That the voice is a whole body activity. It is not just something here. I tell my students that constantly. And so we do a lot of kinesthetics. We move a lot, because I remember, I'll never forget, the lesson where you made me push the piano. 30-minute lesson. And I'm sitting here just pushing the piano the entire time, and I couldn't let up. But it just, those kind of, like you said, pedagogical ideas. And I think when it came to the emotion, because we had some moments, you know, in our lessons, I learned what it was to be an advocate for your student, not just a teacher for them. And he did that for me so many times, and he still does that for me to this day. He comes to my choir concerts. I'm the teacher, he's still coming to my choir concerts, you know? And I think that now that I'm seeing that in my graduates, it's cool to just kind of share that from what I learned from him.
So did you realize all that as a student? I mean, did you realize what impact he's having, or did that take a while?
It took a while. It took a while. There were some days. Do I have permission to tell it? Okay.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
So I like to tell the quick story because everyone says, lessons are very stressful, and they are. You go through a lot. Just a self-discovery in your lessons. And I like to tell people I only cried twice in my lessons. The first time I cried, it was my fault entirely. I showed up very unprepared. I was still young. I didn't know what I was doing. Again, a big fish, little pond. And so I thought I knew everything. And I showed up to my lesson and he pushed me. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I was flopping around and I just wanted it to stop. And he pushed me and pushed me. And I thought to myself, this guy's crazy. I don't know if I could do this. And I got very emotional with myself, but I needed that moment. I had to go through that in order to learn that lesson the hard way. And that was a moment for me. And then as I got older, I did a showcase with Forney, and he prepped me to sing for that showcase. And I remember I was working on the aria, and this is the second time I cried in my lesson, and I just started breaking down, and I was afraid we were just gonna have to push through it like last time, but he could tell something was different. And he sat me down, he dismissed my accompanist, and he was like, well, what's going on? And we had this moment where it was truly a father figure talking to me because I was dealing with some things in my personal life. And he just instilled that value of, self-worth within me because it was part of the message of the song. And I think that was the moment, it took a couple of years, but that was the moment I realized, yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And I'm sure some of your fellow students that you talk with say the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Actually, it's kind of neat now because I have students that are now taking lessons from Dr. Payne. So we now teach the same kids. And that's kind of a cool full circle moment for us.
A push the piano.
Yes.
Literally?
Yes. You lean your whole body on the piano.
I think that's workman's comp. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, stay up here. We're gonna have some good fun. So what are you doing now? You're doing some other things besides teaching. You're performing.
Yes, I am performing. The last performance that I did here in Springfield was with Springfield Regional Opera. Some of you are probably familiar with the jazz icon, Dave Brubeck. And Dave Brubeck wrote a jazz opera based on the life of Louis Armstrong entitled The Real Ambassadors. And I played the role of Louis. He's called the hero. It was premiered in Memphis. And then Springfield Regional Opera, Michael Spires, his brother Sean Spires, and the staff, they decided to premiere it in Missouri, right here in Springfield, back in June. That was the last performance that I sang. And this coming March the 25th and 26th at the Galois, I'm going to be involved in now it's Ozark Lyric Opera's production of Leo Cavallo's I Pagliacci. And it's in Italian. And I open up the show with a huge aria. It's called the Prologue. And I'm excited about it. I get to sing with our own international opera star, Michael Spires. If you haven't heard him, please go on YouTube and listen to him. And I'll be singing along with his brother, Sean, Michael's wife, Tara, and my colleague, Dr. Chris Thompson, will also be in the production. On the first half of the performance, Michael wanted to showcase a lot of vaudeville that used to occur many, many years ago. And one of the songs that he's going to have me to sing, and I'm excited about it, is Cab Calloway's Minnie the Moocher. And also I get to recite Langston Hughes' poem, I Too Sing America. So it's March 25th and 26th. And if you hadn't gotten your tickets yet, please go because you're in for a treat.
So what is something that you always wanted to do with music? What's in the future for you?
Wow.
Now, you got to stay here at Missouri State, but let's take that out. So what would you want to do that's always on your bucket list in terms of your profession?
Well, of course, I'm waiting on that call from the Metropolitan Opera for me to sing. Yes, I got to New York and I sang in a beautiful building where some of the world's greatest opera stars have walked on this stage to sing. But at the top of my bucket list, of course, would be singing in that stage and singing in that opera house that hosts 4,000 people. So, and that's why I keep working like I do consistently. Yeah.
So if you weren't in this profession, what would be the profession you'd be in?
If I had not have broken my collarbone,
Yes.
it would have been my dream to be playing professional football.
What position?
I played offensive and defensive tackle. I went both ways.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you can always have a second job. All right. So now we're going to do, I think we've got time and the people online, I think if you have questions, you can put that in the chat function. We'll have a time here to, yeah, we got some time. This is a lightning round now.
Okay.
So there's no wrong or right answer, and you can say pass if you want, or you can make it up. Okay. Favorite place to vacation?
Okay. Only because I went with my wife. She was there on the edge. She was on the education. It's two. One is Las Vegas because I went there with her. She went there for a convention. But our honeymoon, Jamaica.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Favorite food?
Wow. Me being from the South, I'm just gonna say it. There's a restaurant in Memphis called Gus's Fried Chicken.
Oh, I know it. I've been there.
It is the
That's
best
good.
fried chicken on this planet.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's good. Ice cream or cake?
Oh, ice cream.
Yep, that's a good answer. Your favorite season? Winter, spring, summer, fall?
I love the winter.
That's
I'm sorry, I know.
that's the wrong answer.
Yeah, I know this may sound weird, but I do my best singing in the winter because I'm disciplined. I gotta make sure that I'm wrapped up. Allergies are not bothering me. I just have to make sure that that I'm nice and warm and I don't catch a cold. But winter has always been my favorite.
Yeah, okay. So what's the ritual you go through? When you're getting ready to perform, what ritual do you go through?
Well, number one, I may take a day or two where I don't talk to nobody or nothing. I need to be just completely quiet. And my first voice teacher in undergrad school, I had told her that I was about to sing at Memphis State's music building. And one of the professors, he walked past me and he saw me, my head down, standing in the corner. And he said, "Oh, the sign of a young professional needs to be quiet before he sings." And when I told my teacher that, she said, and I'll never forget, she said, "Baby, singing is a jealous art. And if you don't give it the attention that it needs, it will not respond for you." And even today, when I got up and exercised and came home, I barely said anything because even though I'm speaking and not singing, I still consider it a performance. So I don't talk, I keep myself rested, and eventually I will get up, begin to warm up. And I use this with my students a lot, and I still do it. I will stand in the mirror and I will say some kind things to myself, just to let myself know that, hey, you got this. Whether it's good or bad, you're here for a purpose. And that's what I instill into my students. They all have heard that practice makes perfect, but I've busted that myth by saying practice does not make perfect, but practicing persistently prepares you for the pursuit of your predestined purpose.
Tabitha agrees there. She's shaking her head. Yeah. Okay, back to the lightning round. What's your favorite television channel you like to watch, or if any?
Favorite television show? Law and Order.
Law and Order, that's a good one. When I am not working, I blank. Resting. Okay. Suit and tie or shorts and t-shirt?
My wife's gonna love this. Occasion like this, suit and tie, but short t-shirt.
You'd rather have
regular
that.
slacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Last book you read, nonfiction, fiction, which do you like best?
That's hard.
Oh.
Because
Hard to be done.
because I've read both, so.
Okay. Nothing favorite there. Okay, you can just pass on that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's -1. Okay. Your favorite restaurant in Springfield?
Favorite restaurant in Springfield? It's right here on Walnut. Go there for breakfast.
Gailey's?
Yes.
Yeah.
They have the best pancakes.
Oh, yeah, they're good. They're good. So I think I know the answer to this one, but I'll just see. Would you rather go see a good movie or go to live theater?
Wow.
Oh, maybe not.
You know what? Live theater.
That's what I
And I'll
thought.
tell you why.
Yeah.
When I was in New York once, I had the opportunity, I was given a free ticket to go see a live showing of Fences, starring Denzel Washington and Viola Davis. And I was standing outside, waiting to go in, outside of the theater. This small Mercedes drove up, and this man got out, had on a t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers, had a beard. And I did a double take, and I thought, okay, that's Denzel. Should I go up to him and say hi, I'm a fan? But as a singer, I understand it. He had that look on his face, and I knew, don't you dare leave him alone. But it was the most awesome experience to see this man and who we have seen on the big screen doing live theater.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Gotcha.
it was real.
So we've talked about, this is our first one, you're our first genius, but you're a genius, but you had some thoughts on the definition of a genius.
Yes, if I may.
He's got a handout and a test for everybody. Okay.
It's not a handout or a test, but when I first got the email from Stephanie that said Sean wanted me to be the featured genius, I thought, okay, me? I mean, when it comes to geniuses, first person comes to my mind is, of course, Stevie Wonder. But when I really thought about it, I asked myself, well, what is a genius? And I believe a genius here at Missouri State is someone who's generous, encouraging, noble, inspiration, understanding, and sincere. And I have in this folder about maybe 25 or 30 pamphlets of a writing that I heard the late Sidney Poitier read to Oprah Winfrey in 2005 during her farewell tour. And when I read it, I thought, this is who we are here at Missouri State University. And with your permission, I'd like to share this with you. I've taken it out of context. I've taken Oprah's name out. Where there are underlines, I give you the permission to take these, put your name there, put it on your wall. So when you have those days, I don't know about you, but yes, I have days where I think, am I going to really be able to teach today? And it's things like what Sidney Poitier said to Oprah. It gives me that extra drive to keep moving. The element of a genius. Indeed, does genius have a shape or form? If we cannot spot it by size or shape, then how do we know we're in its presence? Might we have been privileged to witness moments of genius in you fill your name into the blank, during which genius or something akin to it inspires multitudes of people to stand tall in their professional and personal lives and reach beyond their limitations. The genius in you is echoing in the hearts and minds of the many who were encouraged by you to nurture the goodness in themselves and ready themselves to take the reins of their lives into their own hands and hold them firmly and have a say in what direction their journey through life should take. It is my hope that when our students graduate from our awesome institution, and if they are asked, why did you choose Missouri State University? I hope with vigor, firmness, and boldness, they will say, because a genius at Missouri State University told me that I was a genius, and now I will pass it on to the next generation. Thank you for this honor. Go Bears.
You are genius, and we appreciate that. What questions from either online, and we'll start online. Stephanie, you got some.
I do. I have a question.
Yeah.
So we have a student, Dr. Payne, who says, "What's your favorite thing about teaching?" And he'll see you on Monday.
My favorite thing about teaching is that it reminds me to continue to do what I'm asking my students to do. On occasion, when I'm performing, I will stop and tell myself, remember what you said to this student about support and about breathing? Then why aren't you doing it? So I'm a self-talk kind of person.
Good. Another question online.
I have more.
You got a
Yes.
bunch.
So we
Okay.
have another person who wants to know, and there could be a story with this. Are you still making healthy smoothies for your students?
I used to make healthy smoothies, and the answer is yes. I still do make them. Yes, I do, and I'm enjoying them.
With ice cream?
No ice cream.
Oh.
Fruits and vegetables.
Have, did you have those smoothies?
No, but I heard about it.
Oh, okay. Another question online.
Another question online would be, how many languages do you speak or sing?
French, German, Italian, of course, English, Latin, and a little bit of Swahili and a little bit of Hebrew.
Wow. Yes, another question.
I have
online.
one more.
Yeah,
for
okay.
now. What is your favorite religious piece or hymn to perform? And then what is your favorite musical theater piece to perform?
Okay, that's easy. My favorite religious piece is the hymn, It Is Well With My Soul. When I found out how Horatio Spafford wrote that tune, it has been the cornerstone, the foundation of me. And my favorite musical theater, now this is an argument. Some people think it's a musical theater, some people think it's an opera. What? No, it is musical theater. So my favorite musical theater piece, hey, from Showboat, Old Man River. Yeah.
So It's Well With My Soul. That was, he wrote it when he was on a boat.
He,
Was in
the way it was shared with me, prominent businessman out of Chicago, and he decided to take his family on a vacation, on a cruise. And business matters prevented him from going, so he sent his family on ahead. And apparently, I don't know how it happened, but apparently that ship sank. And he received a telegram from his wife with 2 words, "Save alone." And I mean, you can only imagine what a parent felt like to lose all of their children. But through all of his anger and turmoil, he sat and he wrote the words, "When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like a sea billow roll, whatever thou lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul."
You got it memorized.
Oh,
You got it memorized. Questions from, Mike.
Well, I have 2. I was gonna ask you to maybe sing that little chorus, that little segment, but I understand if you wouldn't want to do it. The other one
When
is,
peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like a sea billow rolls, whatever the lot you have taught me to say, soul. It is well with my soul.
Well, thank you. The other is I'd like to know what the heck did that student do after he heard you screaming?
Well, when they came back into the office and I started talking, my voice was just gone. And I just said, okay, let's do some vocalises. And my student, Dr. Payne, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. I just found out I'm gonna be making my New York debut. And we kept going, so.
Other questions? Yes.
Hey, so years ago, I know you brought in Leona Mitchell here to Missouri State. Who do you see in the future that you're going to be bringing on campus to be a visiting singer?
He's been here before, and I've sung with him with the symphony, and he is, I believe, the hottest tenor on the market right now. His name is Lemmy Pulliam, and if you haven't heard him sing, my God, he's presently in, I think it's Liverpool. It's an opera company, and he's doing Giuseppe Verdi's Othello. And we had an opportunity to do a concert version of it. And we're like brothers. He's come to our house to visit. I had the opportunity to work with him this past summer to get him prepared for an opera that he just debuted out in LA, the opera Il Trovatore. So Lemmy is one. My friend Nathan Gunn at Illinois, his wife Julie Gunn, I would love for him to come here to give a recital and give a master class, because when Miss Leona Mitchell came here, the students ate it up. She took time after she worked with some students and answered questions. And I showed bits of her singing at the Met with the late Pavarotti.
Another online question.
We have two things online. One is someone would like to let you know that your performance of Old Man River with the Memphis Symphony at the last Memphis in May was incredible.
I think I know who that is. Thank you.
So then the next question is, oh my gosh, your family's all saying things. Someone else who's your cousin just said something. So anyway, the question is, tell us what you miss the most about your hometown and how your hometown influenced you.
I miss being around my mom, my cousins, who I all grew up with, because my cousins are like my brothers and sisters. I miss those fun undergraduate days with my fraternity brothers, and of course, other friends back at Memphis State University. Nevertheless, I appreciate it when I do have the opportunity to go home and check on my mom and visit with my cousins and see my friends from undergraduate days. But what I truly miss is my home church, St. James CME Church in Millington, because that's where it all started for me. You know, I started singing in the youth choir at 5 years old, and I took after my mother. She was a singer, and she used to sing a song called Walk Around Heaven all day. And when I began to sing solos, it was the first one for me.
Another question in here. We're gonna wrap her up.
Speechless.
Very good. Thanks for singing, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was my pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, my teacher, the late Ethel Taylor Maxwell, she intimidated me, and she stood about 4'8". But I called her the Bobby Knight and the late Pat Summitt of teaching voice. Whether I won a competition or whether I did an opera, that next lesson, she was still difficult on me. And I used to wonder, okay, I just won a competition. I just went and sang here, and you're still being hard on me. When my choir got invited to New York, we were singing at Carnegie Hall with 4 other choirs, made a large choir, and they had an orchestra and soloists. And this soprano soloist, bless her heart, she was behind his baton. And he mentioned to her that she was behind. The second time that she got behind, in a strong stentorian voice, he just said, "That's it, you're fired. Give me another soprano." And we all just froze. He fired her on the spot.
Oh,
I went back to Memphis. I looked at my voice teacher and I said, you can be as hard on me all you want, because now I get it. And that picture that you see at the bottom of my email, she was in the final stages of Alzheimer's. And when I got there, her daughter said, Todd, every Sunday we have music here because people with Alzheimer's respond to music. So today is Mama's 97th birthday. Would you sing for her? And I was sitting at the table where she would always sit, because I had my lessons at her house and she would rip me apart. And I kind of sat just like this. She was right across from me. And I kind of started going, happy birthday to you. And I had this vision that she was getting ready to yell at me. And I sat up really quick and started supporting, because, you know, that's the legacy that she left in me. And so every time I'm teaching, I feel like I can just hear her telling me what to say and what to do.
Very good. Tabitha, thank you for sharing your story, and wish you the best at Glendale and spreading your talent. And Dr. Todd Payne, you're a genius.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. I would hope you would take one of these flyers, because I'm going to put it up on my wall and I'm going to make sure my students have it, because it's so important for us to speak into the lives of our students. And I make my students look in the mirror on some days and just speak something kind to themselves. Sometimes they don't like it, but I had one who spoke into my mirror, and I left my office and just told her, shut up. I mean, shut the door when you leave. She quickly texted me and said, thank you for that. I spent 30 minutes looking in that mirror and crying, but it felt so good to validate myself. And by the way, Dr. Payne, I took the rest of your Kleenexes off your desk.
Very good. We'll have these up here. Thank you all for coming to this lunch with the Genius, and be watching your emails for our next one. Have a great day. Go Bears.